Tuesday, 2 o'clock. I forget what I said. There was puking yesterday. There was 4 times puking. It wasn't terrible bad. It was mostly liquid, but there was the puking. And no eating all day. So early home from school. I'm glad I worked on the cards because I got, some done. Today, just now, during independent play, which turned into a nap, which we normally don't have, but sick, I managed to finish the next 2 cards. So I only have 2 cards left. I have to transfer ink and color them, and then I can mail the whole thing out, and I'll be done with this. Meanwhile, Power Morphicon is 2 weeks away, and I'm not ready. I mean, I have my table, I have my hotel, my buddy's gonna be there, and I ordered those prints, but I'm not ready. I haven't been thinking about it at all. Because leak somewhere in the house, the pool, nope, didn't find it. So we've had 3 different plumbers. It might just be a thing, whatever. It might not be a problem, but it's still a problem because we're getting notifications from the water company. Ants seem to be handled, but school, is this a good angle? What about this? How about here? School might be a problem. We have her in this certain school, and so now, I don't know, I might need to get her out of there and might need to go to another school, and so I'm scrambling because school has started. It's not maybe in a week we'll figure it out. There's a lot, and Tech Advisor Erzuki in less than a week is going to be going away for a little bit less than a week, so I'm going to be on my own. My mom might come over, but yeah, there's just a lot going on, so I wanted these cards done a while ago, but I absolutely must have them done in the next few days before. I mean, I don't know. Things could get worse. I just got to get them done and get them out because it's things could get worse with it. I won't have the time. But I'm keeping my head's floats, and so yeah. Hello, can you see me in the mirror? Might be better. I am trying to get a piece of artwork done before Power Morphicon, and it's gonna be tough. I have the kid. My Tech Advisor Erzuki this weekend, tomorrow, in a day and a half, we'll be going away for a work trip, so I'll mostly be solo, although my mom is around. And I was thinking how when I do these 11 by 17 pieces, people ask me how long they take, and I say on average about 20 hours, which is kind of misleading because sometimes it's 25, 30, whatever. So I put about 3 hours in already. And I'm thinking I did the math, I'm getting it wrong now. Let's say I had 6 days left. And I'm well, if I do 3 hours every day for the next 6 days, that's 18 hours. That would put me a little over 20. And that would get me to be the day before I have to leave, which would give me time to go to a local printer, make them, and get ready for the show. Can I do 3 hours a day? Probably not. I don't know. I'm going to try. So my mom, the kid is an independent play, and my mom's going to watch him for the next few hours. I came to the Hungry Dragon, which is my local game shop. I got a Dr. Pepper. Should be diet, but they didn't have it. And I'm going to get some tots, and that's going to kind of be my late lunch, early dinner, and I'm going to try to work here for 3 hours. That's my plan. I started drawing, but now I'm going to pause because I realize eating this mess while drawing is maybe not the best idea. But this was a good idea. Working for about an hour. This one was mostly done, so I was mostly doing these. And my plan is, I'm going in phases here. Trying to do baby steps and think about what's right in front of me instead of the big, huge project and how am I going to get it done in time. I did the rough, then I took the rough, and I took the layout, the concept, and I was trying to clean it up and having a hard time, and then I got the concept, hey, I'm going to give them each their martial arts stance, with the exception of RJ, who I was going to make look nonchalant. So then I found reference for those poses, but not the rangers in those poses. Then I did that. Now I'm cleaning those up using anatomy and proportion and putting the helmets on, but I'm not worrying about the suits or anything. And I'm going to go through and do sort of the rough pencils on the whole piece. After that, I'll go in and tighten it up where it can be inked and so on and so on. But instead of finishing one character or one, I'm just trying to force myself to move forward. And so my goal by the end of the 3 hour block that I've set for myself is to finish this phase, which should be fine. And then the next phase maybe takes more than 3 hours, who knows, but I'm trying to just take it bite-sized bites. Bite-sized bites? Yeah. So I don't vomit. Leaving now, it's going on 5. I was probably here 3 hours, but I only did about 2.5 hours work because I had to stop. Well, I chose to stop to use the restroom and to get food and a coffee and whatever. Heading home now, my plan is to later do another half hour to finish out that 3 hours. I'm simultaneously proud of myself and disappointed. I'm proud that I came and did the work, and luckily I had the opportunity to. I wish I could have got 3 hours, but I feel like I can get that other half hour in later, no problem. I'm proud that I focused on one foot in front of the other and just decided I'm going to take each element, each character, and bring it up to the next level. I'm disappointed that after 2.5 hours, I didn't even finish that. So I've made enough progress that I have, not inspiration. I have momentum, that's not the word I'm looking for, but I'm gonna push on through. I have enough inspiration, maybe, to continue going. I feel emboldened. I feel like it is hopeful that I can get it done in time if I can keep up this pace. If I had done worse, I might be like, screw it, I'm not getting it done. If I had done better, I might be like, I'm pulling an all-nighter. But I did just enough and succeeded just enough that I'm like gonna maintain. So we'll see how it goes. I'm just turning the lights on. Hello! Just turning into the light room, my office, otherwise known as. I'm awake. I haven't been awake long. I did have a caffeine, but maybe it hasn't fully kicked in. So it's like firing synapses, but not in the right order. I'll open that. So today is Saturday. I did do that extra half hour yesterday, sitting at my desk. I have to watch the kid later, and we're gonna go to this Disney market thing. I'm gonna try to get my 3 hours in now. I don't know if I'll be able to get all of them in, but I want to get as much as I possibly can. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. First thing I opened up, I was looking at, this is what I was ending on, was cleaning up to like sort of a rough pencil for this helmet of a character called Camille. And the fact that I'm halfway done and I left my reference up there is like, mwah, oh, awesome. I know I could jump right into this, and then this will be easy to get working on and then try to segue to the next pieces. And just the whole system I have going where I'm not thinking about 5 steps ahead, where I don't like the way this looks and I got to make it perfect, but like just get it good enough for this phase and move on is very helpful. Because some of the Rangers too, I'm a little bit sketchy. I don't know where they are. Sketchy on some of their anatomy or proportions or whatever. And I didn't even worry about the suits. I just sort of did their helmets and their bodies, leaving the suits for the next round. And it's helpful. I've talked about this before, and sometimes I forget, but the idea of doing basically like production line helps me, because I always think like I would do well if I was in the old Marvel style. There's another character that did Flit. I always feel like, and I might not be, that I'd do well in the old Marvel style. A, being in the bullpen and like the camaraderie and all that stuff. But B, just being like, okay, I just have to do pencils, or I just have to do colors or whatever. I'd want to be a penciler, but just only having to worry about one phase, knowing that other people are going to work on it and sweeten it up. And so I try to make myself be that whole assembly line. And sometimes I forget to do it, but I'm remembering on this one, and it's definitely helping. I worked for like 3 minutes and I stopped because I forgot to get myself a cup of coffee to have while I'm working. The other thing is, when working with properties I don't own, well, even with my own properties, but there's this tendency of I got to get it correct. I got to get the details correct. And I think that's important. And I remember as a kid and as an adult seeing artwork where it didn't really look like the characters. And sometimes it's a style thing and there's choices and there's a redesign. But sometimes it's just like, oh, they were looking at the toy when it's supposed to look like the cartoon, or, they just skipped a bunch of details or made stuff up, or they didn't have the final product. And so this is based on prototype art or whatever. With a lot of things, Rangers specifically, there's a lot of characters, there's a lot of helmets, there's a lot of suits, there's a lot of enemies, and I was working on this helmet, and I'm using a still frame from the show that's pretty clear, but there's a lot of like, what's going on over here? And so then I try to look up other stuff, and I find other people's artwork, and I'm like, well, that's clear, but do I want to copy them, and is that correct? And then I find like cosplay helmets, which again, I'm like, well, how accurate are they? And, sometimes it's a thing where like, oh, well, technically there's this detail here that you could see if you're looking at the prop, but if you're watching the show, you don't really see that. Or if you look at the way they draw it in the comic, it's not really there. So even though it's accurate, it looks less accurate. I heard about this thing called, it's like historical anachronisms. There's a term for it, but things where they are not incorrect, but people will think they're incorrect. It's the Tiffany problem. That's what it's called. The idea that Tiffany we think of as being a modern name. I think of it coming from the 80s. But it was around hundreds of years ago. But if you have some character in a period piece hundreds of years ago, and like, hey, Tiffany, come here, people are gonna be like, that's not right. But it is. It's historically accurate to have a character named Tiffany back then. But we all assume it's a modern name, and it'll take us out of the story, even if it's correct. And that's how some of these details are, where like, oh, that is technically correct, but having it there, people will be like, that doesn't look right, because you don't perceive it when you're watching the show or whatever. And then there's a certain amount of, on the flip side, people don't notice these details. If it generally looks like correct and you get all the major pieces and shapes right, they don't necessarily notice the little details being right or wrong. So I'm trying to cut myself a break with stuff like that, especially like if it's a headshot and a real close-up of one character, I worry about it more. But on a piece like this where there's several characters of different sizes, people tend to take the whole thing in and are more forgiving of little details that are wrong. So I keep trying to remind myself of that as well. So about 45 minutes in, I was working on Daishi helmet, and here's where I'm at. This is 7 hours or so, and this is sort of super rough pencils. Why super rough? Well, a couple reasons. I got to go in and do all the costume details. I need to tighten up those. I might rearrange or change orientation or size, or I might move a hand or whatever. So I'm going to go in and kind of touch up a few things, and then see if maybe I can go to inks from there. But this is like next phase done. Moving on to the one after this. I'm also considering doing, if I get this done in time for Power MorphCon, I want this to be a print that's available generally, but it would be nice to do an exclusive at Power MorphCon. And one of the things I thought is I like this as being a comic book cover. That's how I envision it, like an old school, either the first issue or like I had at the bottom, like introducing the Spirit Rangers, but the Spectre of Daishi lurks, just something like that. But the problem is this fan art is always a gray area. And I think when you include specific logos or names or titles, that's where you can get into real trouble. So putting it online, it's likely to get flagged. But if for Power Morphicon, I really make it look like a comic cover and put the Jungle Fury logo on it and maybe like an issue number and a little blurb and maybe write Power Morphicon exclusive on the bottom or something and make like 10 or 15 or 20 of those. I don't know how many would sell. I might do that if I have time. I'm the first priority. But anyway, I might readjust, move some of the characters, whatever. I'll have to figure that out. But moving on now from this phase to the next. Oh, and I was watching a video from Minty Mido, someone who I've never heard of, but she's an artist who was talking about the hard truth about commission. And just sort of given really good advice about how you should charge for commissions, how you should approach commissions, whether you're just starting and terrible at art and barely good enough and you think you're bad, or like a professional. And I agree with most of what she's saying, and a lot of what she's saying I've been implementing because I've been taking commissions less and less, charging more and more, and narrowing the scope of what I will take, which is a luxury. But the sooner you start doing it, the happier you'll be. And she said something that I say all the time of like, well, I charge more, but I'd rather charge more and do less. And that makes it sound like I don't like to draw, which is sometimes true, but also time. But also it's like, I know I'm going to spend, I'm spending 20 plus hours on this. If somebody commissioned me for this and I was like, give me $50, $100, $200, even that's like less than minimum wage. So I'd rather charge more money, give it my all. And like, instead of doing like 3 pieces for less money that I like rush or don't do as good or feel like I'm not getting as much, that's how I justify it. Not that I'm great, but just this is how the time works out. So anyway, back to it. All right, I've done about 1 hour and 45 minutes so far. I finished up Camille. I did Daishi. I cleaned up this helmet and this helmet. This one I'm quite happy with. This one I'm not. It looks fine, but it's exactly what I was talking about, where it's sort of off model, but there's different versions and different angles, and it's correct, and it's fine, and I'm going to let it go. I may or may not come back to it. This one could be tightened up a little. That one's the one I'm most happy with. But what I'm going to do now is turn off all the layers and go back to the main characters and start putting on their costumes better and tweaking the anatomy and proportions and removing some of these details. Because I drew in a lot of musculature, which you won't see in Power Rangers uniforms. That's more of like a superhero trope. And this will definitely be the hardest step right here that I'm going to start doing. So I'm going to actually take a break because even though I'm not on duty, my kid needs a new backpack for school. And so I think I'm going to go along for a ride with that and maybe get myself a cappuccino while I'm out or something, and then come back and hit this fresh because it's 11 now. I'm off duty officially until 1, and then there'll be some independent play. And I given that I've only have to do another hour and 15 minutes today, I know I could hit that later if I have to. But yeah, that's where we're at. All right, not ready to leave yet. I just did another 15, 20 minutes. And I've been working on refining the main character focus, which is the Red Jungle Fury Ranger. I have still kept some of the muscles. I am deciding this is final pencils. I'm going to have to go back and ink this. I have put in the boots that are part of the suit. I have more work to do, but this will be final pencils. Some of the characters I might be able to go straight to ink, maybe not, but I'm feeling more comfortable one more pass before I go to final, and that's what I'm working on here. So I did my 3 hours for today.
Why didn't you put me on the video?
And then I did an extra 15, 20 minutes or so while my kid hung out in the other side of the office over there. So that's good. So I did over 3 hours today. I forget where I started, but the main thing I got done on the next phase is the Red Ranger in front. There's things about it I want to change, but I'm going to leave it for now. And then I did most of blue, which I thought was actually going to be a lot harder, but I feel like we're coming out a lot easier. And there's certain common elements like the way the boots are designed and these wrist braces that are exactly the same on different characters in this team. And then there's similar elements like the helmet and the stripes and things like that. So I think they're going to get easier as I go along. Still Saturday, I'm in bed, but don't be fooled. I just did another half hour or so finishing up blue and doing a chunk of yellow. I accidentally had a caffeinated beverage. It was a butterscotch latte at like 6 o'clock-ish, 6:30. It's 10:30 now, and I am tired, but I could tell I won't fall asleep. Tech Advisor Azuki is going on a business trip tomorrow. She'll be leaving, and she's packing and doing stuff, which is fine because normally I'd be wanting to go to bed, but I'm awake. So, but I'm kind of drawing in bed, which is like not a great way to do it. And I think I'm going to stop now. I've done probably close to 4 hours today. So great, good me. What I'm going to try to not do is tomorrow think, oh, I have to do 2. No, I still have to do 3. I just got a little extra done today. So there we go. It's 1:45 Sunday. Got sunscreen in me. I need to shave, also sunscreen. I was in the pool with the kid, had a big outdoor play day to tire her out, which was great, but it tired me out too. And now I'm fighting to stay awake. I'm going to go have a cup of coffee or a soda or something and try to get myself to do some artwork because normally I'm off duty as of 45 minutes ago, but Tech Advisor Azuki is about to get on a plane and going to be gone all week. So if I want to get my 3 hours, I have an hour and a half of independent play and book time with the kid. I got to get at least an hour of drawing in now and then try to get some more tonight after she goes to sleep. Yeah, today's going to be the hardest day to fit that in because there's no school and I'm by myself. Well, my mom is staying here, but I don't have off from 1 o'clock until dinner time. Okay, so I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to try to get some caffeine on. Oh boy, they're going to forget about me. They're not going to forget about me. I'm Gambit. So I'm working on the Yellow Ranger. I was working on this last night a little bit. I only did about a half hour-ish. I found good reference for the boots, so I did the boots, and I'm working on the spots. I got to rework that helmet. It's not quite right. But yeah, some progress done. After 3, out of the hour and a half I had, I only used a little over a half hour. The rest of the time was laying on bed, going to the bathroom, laying on bed, like that. But I'm hopeful I can get back to it later. But I got to stop now. Very interesting. How did you get wings and a horn, Twilight?
Well, I got the wings later.
Oh. Meanwhile, my name is Guy Gam. I have hooks for hands. Oops, sorry. I just knocked you over. Whoa, what was that?
What are these?
Whoa, what's going on? Something really fast is happening. All right, I played with the kid, did some other things, getting ready for a late dinner, but I did put on some TV screen time, which we don't do a lot of, and my mom was keeping an eye on her while I did that. So I did just almost an hour more. And I'm working on the next phase of cleaning up one of the background characters, and I finished up Yellow. So that's where I'm at. I have the 3 main characters ready to be inked, quote unquote, and then I started cleaning up one of the background characters. 11:20 p.m. on Sunday. I've got 2.5 hours total done today. So I failed to get that 3-hour mark. And it's annoying because like, oh, I got that extra time yesterday, so my average is 3 hours still per day, and that's true, but I don't want to think that way, and I didn't think that way, but it's getting late, and I got to go to sleep because I got to get up early tomorrow. What I was currently working on is the White Ranger. I was messing with the logo and a few other things, and I'm veering into territory with these last couple figures because I did purple as well, of like, oh, could this be inks? Could I have just inked it? It's almost inked. Maybe. But I don't want to think that way. But I'm pretty happy with this one. All of them need some adjustment. This one doesn't need too much adjustment. This one I'm still working on, so of course I'm less happy with that one. And then I did get Yellow done. I'll put the other ones in here. Sometimes that little layer thing stays, and I don't know why. It usually doesn't, but every now and then it's like, hey, we're layers. I'm staying here until I close it out. But anyway, so these 3 are done for this this pass. So is he. I'm working on that one. Tomorrow, I feel confident I can get 3 hours in. Hopefully I can get 3.5 to make up for the half hour I lost here. Which again, if I'm looking at it holistically, getting a 3 hours on average, I don't need to do, but I don't want to look at it 3 hours on average. I want to say I have to do 3 hours a day. And if I do more than that, great. That being said, I did 2.5 hours today and I'm not going to keep going. It'll be not productive. Good job me. I just remembered I came in here an hour or so ago, before I started drawing, and I brushed my teeth, and I flossed, and I did all my nighttime stuff, so I can just flomp into bed and fall asleep watching a YouTube video. Flomp! So it's 9:15. I got the kid to school. Weird traffic. Well, school traffic, I guess, getting home. And then I had a second cup of coffee and watched a 15-minute YouTube video. Then I didn't feel very good, and now I'm in bed, and I'm trying to motivate myself to get up and get to work, which I'm going to do right now. Are you mocking me? Yes, you sleep all you want. You have not a care in the world. All right, I just spent 50 minutes, which means I took care of my 30 minutes of debt, and I'm 20 minutes into today's, and I mostly was working on redrawing this White Ranger, and I've been redrawing these legs over and over again, and it's a mix, in the hand a little bit, it's a mix of wanting it to be a dynamic pose, of it wanting to be semi-accurate to the karate pose I referenced, getting the proportions right, getting it just so it looks right, feels right, and I'm still not happy with it, but I think I'm gonna have to move on. I have to do the weapon and place the helmet, move on and leave this for the next step. An example of where the phases help me, because it's like, all right, it might need to be adjusted, but not at this phase. I have at least one more phase before I have to lock it in. So I'm gonna move on. Well, I'm gonna finish this. I'm gonna stop working on the body and do the weapon and the helmet and move on to the other characters. With renewed vigor and a diet caffeine-free soda, I will continue. So I spent about an hour, 45 minutes total today, but that's only counting as an hour and 15 minutes. So I got an hour and 45 left to do, but it's almost time to go pick up the child. So I'm gonna start transitioning now. Originally, I had planned on moving on from this character, but I forgot I needed to do the bracer here, and more importantly, this weapon. And I've talked before about reference and how difficult it is to come by, and this is no different. I've been looking at this picture as the best reference, but I just realized that I think this blade continues past there. And sometimes with figures, I can find toys, but these toys, yeah, the blade does seem to continue. These toys were not detailed enough, and I kept finding front pictures, and I decided to do a back view like a fool. So anyway, that's what I've been working on.
The kid finished independent play, and now because my mom actually that's not true. The kid is in independent play. My mom was watching and monitoring. So I came out to a coffee shop I haven't been to before. I had a really good coffee and a pretty good avocado toast for lunch. And I've been working about an hour. I may or may not cut it here. I think I have less than an hour to go for today's work, but this is a nice stopping point, so I kind of decide what to do. There's still things I'm not happy about.
I redrew this. I decided these weren't good enough. I worked on this forever, and I decided all three of these were good enough. I forgot that I decided to put some of the foot soldiers in the background. I'm not sure if I'll even color them or what I'll do, but I did that. Then I kind of composited everything back. There's going to be like an explosion-y kind of color behind them. I redid the white lines just to see that it still works. And I put one layer of 25% purplish shadow on everything just to give me an idea. So still far from done, but putting it all together, this is something I do a lot. I put the elements together, and then suddenly the foot that was a little bit off doesn't seem as noticeable when I do this. Now that being said, I consider this pencils. There's a few areas that maybe arguably could be ink finished, but I'm going to flatten all this out. See, a lot of the elements also are overlapping and covering up other things. I like to do it as well as I can, and if things get cut off, great, and that saves me a little bit of trouble. But I'm gonna flatten this whole thing, make it black and white, and then ink from this. And maybe I'll make some adjustments in inks, maybe I won't, but that's the phase I'm at. Doing this is arguably a little bit of a waste of time, but I used to dabble in filmmaking, and I was a big fan of Robert Rodriguez, and I read his book, and one of the things he talked about when he was making El Mariachi was that he, to motivate himself and the crew, when they were like halfway done or whatever, he cut a trailer, and it just felt real, and it was like, oh, this, put a little music on it, and all of a sudden this seems better. And I did that with a horror movie I was making, and this is sort of the art version of that. Like, it's not done. We're maybe halfway done, maybe more, but this is the trailer. This is proof of concept, and I'm good with this. All right, 3.5 hours done. I don't know if I'll come back to this coffee. Well, let me put it a different way. I would get coffee here again. I might even get food here again. They have a breakfast bagel thing I might try. Maybe I'd come back. The ambiance is okay. I didn't feel like they were in a rush to get me out of there, but it just wasn't amazing. The table was okay. My arm actually feels a little tingly and carpal tunnel-y. I think I was sitting at it in a weird way. I couldn't quite like brace it against the table the way I would have preferred. I'm getting in the car. And, but I got my 3 hours for today and a half hour for yesterday, which brings my daily goal into alignment and my weekly goal average into alignment. And technically I'm over the average because of that extra time I got the other day. But I don't want to let up. So I turned the whole thing into a black and white document. And I started inks on one of the helmets. I started in an easy area, but I've started inks. So today is Monday. So we got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm leaving Friday. So the prints need to be made Thursday night. So I have theoretically 3 days. So ideally, if I could get the inks done tomorrow, who knows, 3 hours, I don't know if that's enough time to get the inks done, but if I get the inks done halfway through Wednesday, so if it takes me like 4.5 hours to do the inks, which is possible because those pencils are pretty tight and there's not any perspective really. And there's atmospheric perspective, but there's not like vanishing points. Then that gives me a day and a half to color, or maybe less. It's definitely, the goal is within sight. It's just a matter of how tight it's gonna be. And if I'll have time to make an alternate version, exclusive, whatever. But okay, I'm gonna head home. And I don't know if I'll work anymore tonight, but I met my goal for today. Subscribe.